You know, every single night you plug into this full immersion virtual reality that feels 100% real. We just call it dreaming. But have you ever stopped to wonder how your brain, the exact same machine that helps you navigate the real world, creates these impossible, brilliant, and honestly super bizarre internal worlds? Well, today we're going to dive deep and explore how your brain's reality engine works when it's taken offline.
This is the central puzzle of dreaming, right? In the moment, you don't question a thing. Flying feels totally normal. Having a conversation with your childhood pet makes perfect sense. But the second you wake up, the whole thing just collapses. The logic is gone. So how on earth does the brain manage to maintain that feeling of reality while completely shattering all of its rules?
Okay, to get this, we really need to rethink how we experience reality itself. Your brain isn't just a passive camera, recording what's out there. No, it's an incredibly powerful prediction machine. In fact, what you perceive as reality right now is just your brain's best guess of what's going on. It's a kind of controlled hallucination that you're living inside of every single moment.
And this prediction machine has a name. It's called a generative model. Just think of it like a super sophisticated simulation that's running inside your skull 24/7. It's built from this massive, interconnected network of concepts and possibilities, almost like an internal graph of reality, and its job is to constantly predict your sensory experience from one moment to the next.
So, during the day, this internal simulation is kept on a tight leash. How? By a constant flood of data from your senses. See, when a prediction doesn't match what's actually happening, like when a step is shorter than you thought or a sound comes out of nowhere, your senses send back what are called prediction error signals. These little errors are crucial. They correct the model and keep your controlled hallucination tightly tethered to the real world.
And that right there leads us to the most important question. What happens when you fall asleep? Your brain doesn't just shut down, not at all. It simply changes the settings on its reality engine. Welcome to offline mode. As you drift off to sleep, your brain performs this fascinating process we can call a precision collapse. It's a fundamental shift in how it weighs information, in what it chooses to believe. This whole shift is about precision, which in brain speak is just a fancy word for confidence. Or think of it like a volume knob. When you're awake, the precision of your senses, that's bottom-up information, is cranked up high. But in REM sleep, the brain turns the volume on that sensory info all the way down to nearly zero. At the same time, the precision on the brain's own internal predictions, the top-down stuff, stays cranked way up. So your brain is still confidently shouting its predictions, but it's basically deaf to any feedback from the outside world. And here's the kicker, the direct consequence of that change. Without those sensory error signals to correct it, the brain's generative model becomes your reality. What the model predicts is what you perceive, period. The simulation isn't like the experience. The simulation is the experience. And this right here is the key that unlocks the whole mystery. It's the blueprint for the architecture of our dreams. This one simple change in the settings explains pretty much every weird and wonderful feature of the dream world. So let's solve a few puzzles. First one, how is it possible that you can see such vivid, colorful, and insanely detailed worlds when your eyes are shut tight? Well, the answer is that high internal precision we talked about. Your visual cortex is just as active as when you're awake, sometimes even more active. It's buzzing with signals, but those signals aren't coming from your retinas. Nope, they're coming straight from the brain's own generative model, which is running at full power, creating the world from the inside out. And get this isn't just a theory. Scientists can actually see this happening. Using high-density EEG, they can monitor a so-called posterior hot zone in the brain. And just by looking at the activity in this one area, they can predict whether a person is dreaming with about 87% accuracy. Your brain is literally lighting up with an internally generated world. It's amazing. Okay, so this also explains our next puzzle. Why do we so easily accept things that are completely impossible? Why doesn't some part of our brain just go, hang on a second, people can't breathe underwater? The answer is all about metacognitive precision. See, our ability to think about our own thoughts, to question things, it gets suppressed. The part of your brain that's responsible for reality testing and high-level logic, the dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex, it just goes quiet. Your internal fact-checker is totally offline, so you just accept the impossible without a single second thought. But what happens when that fact-checker wakes up inside the dream? This is where things get really interesting. This is lucid dreaming. It happens when that metacognitive precision is partially restored. That reality testing circuit, which is often associated with this 40 Hz gamma wave activity, it just flickers back on. You're still in the dream, but now you know it's a dream. A really powerful way to think about this is with the idea of a strange loop. In a lucid dream, your consciousness, your model of yourself, becomes aware that it's inside its own self-generated model of the world. It is the ultimate act of self-reference. The system is looking at itself. It's mind-bending. So, all of this tells us that dreaming isn't some weird bug in the system. It's a critical, built-in feature. But what is it actually for? Why does the brain go through all this trouble every night? Well, running the generative model offline like this allows the brain to perform some really critical nightly maintenance. It's like a system reboot and defrag. It prunes away weak connections to optimize its internal graph. It consolidates important memories from the day, and it generally works to make its model of the world simpler and more efficient for tomorrow. And one of the most cutting-edge theories suggests that the very bizarreness of our dreams is their purpose. It's called the overfitted brain hypothesis. You see, just like an AI can get too hung up on its training data, your brain can become too specialized to your daily routine. Dreams, with all their strange and novel scenarios, act like a dose of creative chaos. They force your brain to generalize its understanding of the world and become more flexible. So let's just end with this thought. Your conscious experience, this very moment, is the product of a generative model inside your head. Waking and dreaming, they're just two different operational modes of that same exact system, controlled by a few simple changes in precision. Which, of course, brings us to a final and maybe slightly unsettling question. If it's all just a matter of flipping a few settings, how can you be so absolutely sure which mode you're in right now?